Welcome, everybody. My name is Marty Mascari. I am a contractor under the North Central Texas Area Agency on the Aging and the North Central Texas Aging and Disability Resource Center, or ADRC. And we serve the greater Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. Um, if you never heard of Donnie Green, I was just bragging on her. She's our leader at the Area Agency on Aging, and she's just an incredible person. But so before we get started, we just are so fortunate, centered in the middle of our service area, except we're not in our service area because we go all the way around you, is we have the James L. West Center, which is, let me tell you something, an incredible place. And so I'm going to introduce Jamie Cobb Tensley first and let her talk about CEUs, and then I'll let her introduce Holly and Heather.
Thank you, Marty. And we are very happy to provide free CE credits for those of you attending today, at 1.5 credits for social work, nursing, licensed counselors, and then if you want your certificate of attendance. To get your CE credit, however, you will have to complete a SurveyMonkey evaluation. And honestly, we ask everybody complete the evaluation because we really do appreciate and use your feedback. But if you want that free CE credit, it's required that you complete this SurveyMonkey evaluation, and that link will be sent out in the follow-up email that Marty sends out in the next day or two. Once you complete that evaluation, if you will please allow us about 4 weeks for us to process all the requests, and then we'll email those back out to you through the email address you provide. Marty, did you want to say something?
Yes, just briefly, in addition to the SurveyMonkey survey, we also at the Area Agency on Aging have our own survey, which is under a Google survey. It should pop up as you close out of Zoom today. It should ask you if you would like to take a short survey. And if you say yes, it'll take you to it. Believe me, they're very brief, but they're incredibly helpful for us in our planning and applying for and reporting back to funders who help us to put these on. So please, the Google survey, if you will complete that, but please note that the SurveyMonkey survey is the one that is the required one if you would like CEUs or certificates of attendance today. There you go.
Thank you, Marty. And then I do want to introduce both Holly and Heather. They're your presenters for today. So Holly, as most of you know, is our Director of Education and Family Support Services, and she is a licensed counselor in grief and trauma therapy, and I'm a dementia care expert. But Heather, who may be new to you, Heather is our director of our Senior Day program. And Heather also has her master's in Dementia and Aging Studies. And you'll also be hearing, they'll set you up from some participants that are in Heather's Day program and get to hear from them. So I'm going to turn it over to you ladies. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. We've got a really, really special program today because we've done something a little bit different. I know as your names come on and your locations, many of you are here every single month without fail. So we've done something just a little bit different today where we're going to do, this is Living Well with Dementia, Hope and Strategies for Care. And a big chunk of what we're going to do today is hear from someone with dementia and his wife. And we're going to listen to their stories from their mouth and hear from them what it is like to live well with dementia. But to start, let's do, there's our objectives, an overview of dementia, high overview of dementia. And then I'm going to have Heather talk about those earliest stages of the disease, some common changes that we can see, expectations, and then we're going to get into the video of our participant at our day program. But let's look at the latest statistics. Some of these I want to point out because they're staggering. And again, if you're somebody who are on our programs all the time, these update every January and every August. New statistics come out in healthcare. So these update. So if you're going, wait a minute, these numbers were different before. That's right. because they're changing all the time. Right now in the United States, we've got 7 million Americans with Alzheimer's disease. By 2050, we're thinking that that's going to be about 13 million. I want you to notice there that 1 in 9 people over the age of 65 has dementia. Over 11 million Americans provide unpaid care for people with Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. When you see ADRD, that's Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. 97% of primary care physicians wait for the patient or the family to make them aware of symptoms or to request an assessment. 97%. We've got another statistic that says that 62% of healthcare workers think that dementia is a normal part of aging. And it isn't. Actual dementia, actual memory loss is not a normal part of aging. Something else is going on. It's either dementia or it's something else, but it is not a normal part of aging. And then look at this one again in bold print. 54% of people having self-perceived difficulties with thinking or memory have not talked to their doctor. Now let's think about why is that? Fear, of course, fear. So let's look at, again, high overview, just defining dementia. We've got that umbrella there because dementia is an umbrella term, just like the word cancer is an umbrella term. Dementia is an umbrella term. It is a group of symptoms, and it's going to affect both intellectual and social abilities. And it's got to be severe enough that it's interfering with daily function. Also, we're going to have some problems with at least 2 brain functions. So people tend to use the word dementia like it's a synonym for memory loss. Dementia is actually about 36 common symptoms, but we tend to see issues with at least 2 in the beginning, and typically it's memory loss, impaired judgment, or impaired language, or all 3. Dementia is the umbrella term, and then under that umbrella are all the different types of dementia. Alzheimer's disease being the most common type, form, or cause of dementia. Some statistics show up to 80% of all dementias is Alzheimer's disease, 60 to 80%. So that's why we hear about that one the most often. The other 3 that we hear of the most often are vascular dementia, Lewy body dementia, and frontotemporal dementia. But I said there's over 100 different types of dementia. So again, what is dementia? It is so much more than just memory loss. I mentioned 36 common symptoms. Well, let's look a little bit closer. We're not going to go over all 36 because that's not what this program is about today. But sometimes what families see first, and we're going to hear in our video from this family, kind of how did it start to show up? And then you will see from the very first sentence that this gentleman is going to say in the video, you'll see his dementia showing up. He catches himself, but you'll see it showing up. So I want you to be looking for these things. Memory, that immediate, short term, and then long term. Thinking and reasoning, the ability to problem solve. Sometimes with families, the very first thing they see after they get educated, they look back and go, they were having problems with judgment, reasoning, and just the ability to think long before there were any memory issues. Not being able to pay attention, their language starting to change because the brain is starting to fail. With all of the dementias, the brain is failing for one reason or another, because it's Alzheimer's, because it's vascular, because it's frontotemporal, because they have a disease. Their personality is going to change. That 3-pound brain that we all have, by the end of dementia, is going to be a 1-pound brain. They're losing the ability to take care of themselves. Their sensory input and output is going to change, and then their movement and coordination is going to change. Another thing I want to remind everyone of is that dementia is progressive. We have not found a cure for dementia. What we do is we do education. The more educated you are, whether you're a professional or a family caregiver, you will better be able to go on this journey with your loved ones or with your clients, your residents, and your patients. And that in turn is going to make their life better. We said it's progressive, it's also terminal. What's happening in the brain is that those neurons and the wiring in the brain are malfunctioning, and eventually they stop working. So what we're going to cover next before we get to our video is Heather is going to come on and she is going to talk us through the early mild stage of the disease. Now, I'm going to kind of set this up with, we like to call the earliest stages of dementia normalization. Normalization. We're going to keep everything as normal as possible with some reminders, setups, and cues. Heather runs our day program. Notice I did not say day care because it is for adults. And it is a place where participants, is what we call the folks that go there, those participants can go and have a beautiful time together in a social situation. She'll give you more information about that. But again, keep in mind that these earliest stages of the disease, we're going to focus on normalization. So I'm going to turn it over to Heather to start with some preserved abilities.
Thank you, Holly. So when we're looking at people in early stages of dementia, they are able to remember those long ago memories. We know that memories that are farthest back in their mind are the ones they're most likely to remember. They may not remember what they did yesterday or what they did earlier today, but they will remember those things from their past. When it comes to memories also, sometimes you'll have where the person with dementia will answer a question and you'll think, well, that's not right. That's not true, because they have memories that maybe didn't actually happen. They're distorted memories called confabulation. We had a lady in our day program and we were doing a reminiscence one day. We were talking about our job and she had this great story of being a teacher. And I said something to her daughter that night about how she had shared and just about her educating all these elementary students. And her daughter said, well, that never happened. And I actually stopped and thought, I think I'm thinking of the wrong person's daughter, you know, all worried, but no, it was just her mother had made up this story, but she truly believed it. And so that does happen to people living with dementia. Emotional memories, you know, we remember those things that really, you know, struck our heart and our brain. Those are things that tend to stick with us. And then perceived abilities, also remembering and understanding facial expressions, tone, and gestures. So although the person may have some challenges with communicating, they can tell what we are conveying by how we're acting. And so that can be, if we're frustrated, they can see we're frustrated. If we're smiling, you know, we're more friendly towards them than if we were, you know, just looking frustrated. When it comes to tone and gestures, they recognize all those things. And that also actually helps when it comes to social skills as well. Being able to still go out and go to restaurants with family and go to church and be able to kind of conceal some of those deficits, maybe for a short period of time. Activities that are cued. So if we can provide cues to the person, break things down into short tasks, simple sentences, things that they can understand and follow. Singing and music. When in doubt, you cannot go wrong with singing and you can't go wrong with music. Everyone has a type of music they enjoy and that that brings them comfort. It might be music from long ago. It might be music from when they're in their 20s and 30s, but if you can find that music and get them singing, that can really go a long way. Unfortunately, sometimes we hear the swearing, forbidden words, sexual words that might embarrass us. But we have to remember that the person living with dementia, they have damage in their brain. And so that damage to their temporal lobe, can cause them to sort of lose their filter in a way we might think of it. And so they would say things they might not ordinarily say. So we'll start to hear those words. And those are the kind of words that when we were growing up and somebody said a swear word, it was like shocking. And so that sticks in your brain, that sticks with you. And we know that people in early stages can also usually make their own decisions with extra time and limited options. And we always want to let the person make decisions and to have that as much autonomy as they can. So with extra time, giving them a moment, giving them a certain number of options, they are able to help make those decisions. So when it comes to decision-making ability, again, it is going to be impaired, but we can give the person time to answer and time to think about what we're asking and limit the choices. So we could ask a yes or no question, this or that. Do you want to wear shorts or do you want to wear pants? Do you want to have steak or chicken? We can show pictures, we can hold the clothes up, things that where they have an either or type of way to make a decision that can be very helpful. We all know that people with dementia may repetition. They may ask questions over and over again that can be challenging for the caregiver. But remember, they are trying to remember something, or they may not be able to remember. They know you told them something, and so they keep asking because they want to get it in their brain. They want to remember what they're doing. But again, their brain doesn't work like ours does. So we want to structure that daily routine. And so often we think somebody who is living with dementia can't learn, but they can learn. Structure, it starts to feel familiar. In our day program, a lot of families ask us, well, why would you do an education program? They can't learn. And I thought to myself, everybody who comes to the day program, this was a brand new place to them. And every single one of them could tell you where the door is, especially in the afternoon when the doorbell starts ringing. So people with dementia can learn, and they do benefit from that structured daily routine. So things will start to seem familiar. And then informing the person of events only as they occur, rather than talking about what we're going to do tomorrow and start to get that repetitive worry about, she told me something, let them know as it occurs. For apathy and lack of initiative, this can be a symptom of dementia, or they might be trying to avoid difficult situations. You'll hear in the video, John's wife talks about when she first started to notice his dementia, and you'll see that he might have avoided things to avoid that difficulty and that embarrassment. The person might realize that they're forgetting things, or they think, last time I went to church, someone came up to me that I've known for 30 years and I couldn't think of their name, and how embarrassing that was. And so deciding, what, I'm not going to church, I'm sleeping in. Or, they always like to go to lunch with friends on Friday, but now they're embarrassed because they couldn't keep up with the local news stories. And so they start to just avoid those social situations. And so we don't want to remind them of what they're not doing, but we want to encourage them to have that opportunity to get out and be around other people and focus on the activities that the person still enjoys. And then encourage and create opportunities for them to stay connected and to have independence. So finding a place that they can connect with other people and have that ability to socialize. So like Holly said, we're going to focus on normalization. We're going to focus on what the person living with dementia can do instead of what they cannot do. They can already tell what they can't do. They've experienced things that maybe have been taken away from them, like their ability to drive or things like that. So we want to focus on what they can do and keep things normal. There's a lot of dignity in being able to help others. And so often when we are working with people with dementia, whether they're our family or we're in a professional capacity, we start taking away the person's ability to be helpful. We start doing everything for them. We think it's just easier if I do it myself, or if I want it done right, I have to do it myself. But what if instead of saying, no, thank you, sit down, or no, I've got it, we said, yes, I'd love your help. And we handed the person the broom and let them sweep the floor or let them help set the table. I have a gentleman in my day program now who believes he's working for me, and he sweeps the floor every night. He wants to help me. The other day, he saw me putting trash in bags and moving things around. He came over and wanted to help. And I thought, well, why would I not let him help? I mean, how wonderful it is for him to feel that he's important and he's making a huge difference. And then last Friday, when he was last Thursday, when he was having a bad day, I brought him in my office and I gave him his paycheck. I just said, thank you for all the help you give me. This is amazing. I gave him his check and he was just super happy. So there's dignity in that. We don't want to make assumptions about a person's ability to communicate. Each person is different when they live with dementia. So our video of John and seeing him and how he communicates, that's just the communication style of one person living with dementia. We want to make sure that we are not excluding people with dementia from conversations or letting them make decisions. And we don't want to talk about them in front of them, especially, they may realize what's going on. They may know you're talking about them. It's the whole thing of protecting their dignity. When we have folks come in and we do assessments for the day program to see if they'll fit in with our program, I don't ask the families to start. I don't ask the family about their loved one when their loved one sits there. I ask them, I said, tell me about you, or tell me what you know about our program, or, what do you enjoy? And, there's a lot of time they don't tell me the quote unquote right answer, or they don't know what to say. But I learn a lot by slowing down and just listening to them and letting them say what they want to say and giving them that respect and allowing them to feel important. So again, we're going to slow down and actively listen. We're going to speak directly to the person, and we're going to try to make eye contact with them, make sure we're at their level, and allow them plenty of time to process and respond. Somewhere along the line, I heard that it was 15 seconds to let them really process in their brain and hear what we're saying. And that's a long time compared to what we usually wait for other people. Don't interrupt unless requested. How often do we try to just say what we think they want to say? They're frustrated, and so we just blurt out what we think. Well, we want to give them a moment and then avoid harsh tone and negative words. That's a good time to just, while you're waiting, take that breath. Take that breath and smile and relax. And then help the first person find appropriate words of self-expression. Sometimes we'll have folks here and they're frustrated and they're angry, but they don't know how to say it. So they'll start to clench their fists, or they'll say, we can say something like, you seem angry, rather than, no, don't yell, or, don't get angry. You seem angry. And they're just, and then we can maybe move on and do something else. Or what can we do to solve that problem? But it's all about helping the person. So again, simple commands broken down into small steps. If I ask somebody to, help me hang pictures on the wall, they can't do that. But if I say, here, will you hold on to this? Here, help me measure. And we do step by step by step, they can help. And, it might take a little longer, but not only are they getting the benefit of being helpful, you're working on building that relationship again. That person feels useful and helpful in the moment. And then we also want to concentrate on what feelings, emotions, and needs are being expressed. So often we say the person with dementia has behaviors. Oh, they have terrible behaviors. Well, we try to remember to call those expressions or behavior expressions. They're not having a behavior. They're not able to express what they're feeling. You and I are frustrated. We can tell somebody, I'm frustrated, or I need a break, and we can get up and take a break. But the person with dementia may not be able to do that. So they may be sitting in a room with people, seem happy and start to cry, or they're pacing, or they seem anxious, or they get up and they start rummaging through the closet. And rather than saying, oh, they have rummaging behaviors, or they're, wandering throughout the house, what are they looking for? What's the unmet need? They're wandering, maybe they're looking for someone. And can we walk alongside them and try to figure out what they're looking for or what they need and how we can help? Arguing or insisting never helps. Do not argue with the person that you are taking care of who has dementia. Nobody likes to be argued with. We all feel that same feeling of frustration, or like someone's attacking us if they're arguing with us. So if the person with dementia is looking for their grandmother, or in my day program, oftentimes I'll have folks, ladies in the afternoon, where is my husband? I know he's supposed to pick me up. He told me he'd be here and he's not here. Regardless of whether the husband's coming or not, tell me about your husband. Where'd y'all meet? Or just have a conversation about the husband. Or, sometimes when it goes on a while, I'll even remind them, oh, you know what? Your daughter told me she's picking you up today. Oh, my daughter. Yes, she's so helpful. She loves us so much. Rather than having an uncomfortable argument or a disagreement, there's no benefit in that. And so therapeutic fibs, therapeutic stories, that's okay to tell those things. It's okay because you are helping to keep the person with dementia, they feel safe, they're heard. The concern is who's picking me up. The concern is not so much about, who I tell them is picking them up or about their husband, but they just want to know that somebody knows they're there and is going to bring them home. And then, of course, nobody likes to be told what to do. So the more that you can help the person and be independent and let them make decisions, the better. I like this one. Get help from persons in authority to help with those big decisions. So often we don't want to have to be the bad guy when it comes to our loved one. We know they shouldn't drive, but are we going to take the keys away? Or we know that they should go somewhere, but they really don't want to go. You can let the doctor be the bad guy. Tell him it's the doctor's orders. Get it in writing. Have the doctor write a prescription. No longer able to drive, needs to let wife drive, or needs to come to a senior center or a senior program to be out around other people, something like that. Get the doctor to put it in writing. Stand firm on hard decisions, but be okay that your loved one may get mad. And this is hard. And I talk to every family that comes in my day program about this also. You are the one in charge. Although you want to do what's best for your loved one, at the end of the day, someone has to make a decision, and it may be you. And so you want to stand firm on that. If you've decided, my loved one is depressed, he doesn't get out of bed, he's hiding from all his friends, but now I've decided that every Wednesday he's going to go meet some friends for lunch, or every Wednesday he's going to the senior center, and just decide and stand firm that you're going to do that, and understand that they may have a great time, but then they may be so upset that they were separated from you for 2 hours, or they may not want to go and they may fuss and fuss and fuss, and you get them all ready and they go and they have a great time. It's okay for the person to be upset with you. It's okay, because you're doing what you're doing for their best interest. Keep communication, emotions, and feelings open, and then offering no more than 2 simple choices at a time. Like I said before, the yes or no, or this or that, the shorts or the jeans, something where they can make a decision. Identify yourself if they're unable to remember names. Lightly touch the person to provide reassurance or to redirect if upset. Just think about when you're upset, how far does a hug go? Just a hug from a friend. Or I had a family member ask me the other day, because he was a little frustrated, not sure what activities to do with his wife. And I said, do you ever just sit with her and hold her hand, maybe massage some lotion, and just sort of enjoy that sensory moment? And he hadn't thought about that, because we think activities have to be these big adventures, when really it can just be that moment, that connection. So never hurts to try to provide reassurance with physical touch. Don't pull away from the person with dementia. Continue to have a relationship with them. Nurture your relationship. And that's just like with the touch, just having that moment, that connection. And then remembering that support, honesty, normalization, and friendship are crucial, because everyone living with dementia has the same needs that we do. And that favorite communication practice is to never say the word remember. And if you start to think about it, you will notice how many times you say remember to someone. And so you got to stop yourself, because they don't remember. That's why we're helping them. And again, therapeutic stories, that's a great way to fix it. The idea being that we're going to go into their world. They cannot come into ours. They are doing the best that they can with what they have. Their brain is not working like our brain. So we are going to let them be where they are, and we're going to go to their world. And, don't get emotional. It can be hard if they start talking about something that's, you know, someone that's passed away or something that's not true. Or example here, if you're being accused of stealing their money, you know, and they're upset because nobody wants their money taken. So call the bank, have your name taken off their account. You know, you can call a friend or relative. I was telling somebody a couple weeks ago, you need to phone a friend. Somebody will play along with your story. And if you can find that, that helps with a lot of those things. You know, if they're looking for someone who's passed away, they're at the store, they're golfing, you know, whatever works. And sometimes it doesn't work and you try something else. And then again, those are only distractions. And like Holly says, you can't go wrong when in doubt. Ice cream, babies, pets, and music. Those are great distractions. You know, there's easy things you can pull up even on the computer, all sorts of pet photos and dog videos and babies laughing. Oh, so many things. So when in doubt, that's a great distraction.
And at this point, Heather, do you want to set up our video? Because that's what's going to be next.
Yes, I would. So the video is a gentleman named John and his wife Angela, and he has been coming to the day program for about a year or so. And although I see him every day and talk to him every day, interviewing him, I learned so much. And so some of the things I'd like for you to listen for are notice his preserved abilities. And what was really interesting with that is when he talks about his preserved abilities and then he talks about something that he can't do. And it's just so fascinating how the human brain works, because there's just one thing he can do. And then there's something you're like, well, how can he not do that? And he can talk about it and the fact that he can't do it. So it's just to me, it was very interesting. And notice the tools he uses to help with his memory. And then how he just describes, his life. It's just, I think it's a really interesting way to just picture it for us all to learn a little bit more about those earlier stages.
And I also am going to ask you to not only really be listening to John, but listen to Angela as well, because we know that whenever we've got that one person with dementia, we've got at least one other, and many times there's several others that are called the hidden patient because it's the caregiver. Now, his wife, Angela, is part of our support group. She is part of our education. So she has been doing her best to learn as much as she can about the disease. I hope that you are going to appreciate and enjoy this as much as Heather did filming it with her team. And I think we're going to learn a lot from John and Angela. So we'll start.
I'm 74-year-old who has spent the last 6 or so years with Alzheimer's. And so as a result of that, I'm having to learn to work my way through the challenges that brings to bear. I'm very fortunate that I have a wife who's understanding, very knowledgeable, and fortunately we've been married since 1989, so we've been married a good long while, and she's guiding me through it and is having to guide herself through the challenges that comes with Alzheimer's.
So what do you enjoy doing in your free time?
Well, up until a very short time ago, I had a dog, little Buddy, and unfortunately he passed away at age 17, and that's been a real hole. So I'm learning to cope with that. He really did fill a family hole for me. I have found that the Alzheimer's has hindered me from taking advantage of things that I used to do, which was I was a member of choir at church, the First Christian Church downtown. I was in the choir there, but unfortunately, because of Alzheimer's and everything else, it shut that down. Thank God for James Elwes. I mean, that's really I can't overemphasize enough, and I'm not saying this because of where I am, as far as, this interview. It has made all the difference in the world. It's a compassionate, understanding organization, and has plenty of activities, a lot of which I really, really like. I like all of them, but some of them I like even better than others. And that helps me. It's developed a normalism. So I don't feel like I'm kind of out in left field.
Okay. So are there things you find more difficult to do now than in the past?
Yeah, because of the Alzheimer's, there's a lot of things like cooking and other things that I used to be able to do that I just can't do now. Mainly a lot of that safety wise and otherwise. Making choices is hard. I could go to the refrigerator and know exactly what's in the refrigerator and, know what to pick out and so on and so on. Now there's a challenge that comes with that as well. The reason that James L. West is so important in all this is the fact that the way your operation is the fact that it's compassionate. It's very helpful. It's not just a surface effort. I feel welcome. And two, there's a lot of things to do that are constructive. Just even the morning part, besides the big circle, which is very helpful with the exercising, so on and so forth, but also going over the daily chrono, staying up to current events. That really takes a lot of what I think some people have had to go through with Alzheimer's. They don't have that stimulation and that it's kind of presented to you. Now you have to do something with it, but that it's enjoyable, and people are patient, which is a big part of that.
So are there times of the day that are easier or harder for you?
Not really. The day is very full, not too full. And it has activities that are meaningful, that help me feel like that I'm still connected. And that's a big deal. I think it would be real easy to just have a kind of a road activity schedule that was kind of the same every day. And for me, that's one, been encouraging. It makes me feel at the end of the day that I actually contributed something rather than just kind of sat there and kind of soaked it in. And then the friendships that have been developed, and that's really important too. I mean, we haven't had this many friendships going on for quite some time, not because of anything bad. It's just getting, being settled and so forth, and then finding out that this was something that I was going to have to face. So this has been a very welcome, a very welcome experience.
So do you ever find it hard to remember names or appointments?
Remembering names more than appointments, because Angela keeps me tuned in. We have a calendar on my iPhone, and I really do. I'm going to wear this iPhone out, because that's something that I check, many times a day. I do periodically check it just to get a check in my mind that I know where I am. Well, I know where I am, but that I know that I have that I have things that are going on, and it helps me prepare for them in advance.
How do you feel when you forget something?
I'm a little bit frustrated. I've been fortunate up to this point to where I've drawn such a blank that it's just gone. So I haven't gotten to that point. I've had things that if someone asks me a question to where I have to kind of either, think it through and then answer, or say, let me check on that. Let me, and then go try to remember it or do some sort of a research. That's another thing that the iPhone is good for, is being able to look things up. And that really does. I didn't realize how much that was going to help. I'm not only dependent on it. I know that's not the only thing that I can do to remember something, but having that ability to do that is a big deal.
Are there things that make you feel anxious or upset?
Not being able to drive,
Okay.
and that's not being upset about it. It's just frustrating, that it's frustrating too. One, it's inconvenient. It's inconvenient for her because she ended up being the taxi driver. But at the same time, it is always that reminder that you got something that's wrong with you that's limited your activity. So that is a little frustrating, but it's not unbearable. That's the biggest thing through all of this that I've had, that's been the hardest for me to cope, is coming out of just a natural, flowing life and having all these things. You kind of have to do something else to get the same thing done or whatever it is. And so it's a little frustrating, but it's not unbearable, and it's certainly not something I lose a lot of sleep on. I don't. But it is frustrating. But it's my mom has had Alzheimer's. I'm grateful. I'm sorry Mom had to go through what she had to go through, but I'm grateful that I haven't yet gotten as bad as she got. So I'm very grateful for that.
So what are you most proud of in your life?
Well, first of all, having a wonderful wife, that's number one. But I'm proud to have had a productive career. I also, besides military, I got a degree in elementary and special ed. So I actually taught school for a little while. Wasn't very much because I was getting my commission and then joining in the military by the time all of the college part is over. But I did get a chance to experience that. Felt really good. I mean, it was very satisfying, and so that helped ameliorate the kind of experience. Let's see. Most of the kids are in Colorado, so it's a good distance away. So that's I guess you could call it a disadvantage for being able to visit. And then got brothers and a sister who live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Don't get a chance to see them a lot, but they're there, and I know I can get to them. And I think they're a little, they know they're going to have to kind of get used to this too, But we have a pretty solid family unit, for that matter, and so that actually makes things easier to have that and know that you have that. Obviously, the ability to do a lot of traveling has been hindered to some degree. And that's something Andrew and I really enjoyed doing. And so, that part, just have to compensate for it, another way.
So what do you wish that people understood better about you?
It's let me see that I can operate fairly normally in a social setting. I can participate. They probably get tired of me trying to answer all the questions, but that's a very positive thing for me. The fact that I can still manage to know things that are going on out in the world. It's not like living in a tunnel to where the world's out here and you're kind of stuck in it. It's very participatory. And I think James Owens has done more for me in that regard as anything. Sitting in a circle, doing our little footsteps.
Well, I think something that's important about you still yet is that you're still a strong leader and you love to sing, the karaoke and things like that. Even though, as he's mentioned, it's harder for him to make decisions. He's not so bossy. He used to be relatively bossy, being, the colonel, and and now he always asks my opinion and defers for just about everything. And it,
I definitely rely on her for sanity.
yeah, his mom, who also had Alzheimer's, they used to say about her that she had pleasant dementia.
Mhm.
So as it progressed, she was still always very pleasant. I love you, you're so pretty and stuff like that. And with John, he is very complimentary and appreciative. He's not ill-tempered. I've always said that I thought that his degree in special education has probably helped him with patience with me as well, because before John, although we've been married 36 years, I never had anybody that I could last with for more than 3 or 4 years, because I guess I drove him crazy. But him, he's very patient and he's very caring. If I were sick, he loves to take care of me. He still feels bad if I'm sick, and he wants to take care of me. But then he forgets that I'm sick. And he wants help. So we go back and forth.
So how long have you been in the caregiving role?
Although he was first diagnosed in 2018, it's only been a little more serious for the past 5 years. And then the past 2 years, maybe 2.5 now, is when it became a little dangerous for him to drive.
Mhm.
So his neurologist suggested that he stop. But he was now considered 100% disabled by the VA. 70% of it is due to Alzheimer's. And that was figured out by them with 5 or 6 visits to various psychologists and psychiatrists and things like that, about 2.5, 3 years ago. And there's a geriatric care team at the University of North Texas.
So what made you notice the first signs of memory or cognitive issues?
I think I'd have to say it was when he would say I didn't tell him something. And he couldn't remember conversations. This was actually started back in about 2011, 2012. So earliest signs started back then. And I noticed he was having phone conversations with his boss, where the boss would say, how are you doing on such and such a project? And he would say, what are you talking about? And he would not remember that they had a conversation, that there was a project coming due. And I wasn't going to interrupt that phone call, but I knew that they had talked about it. So he was forgetting conversations. Short-term memory loss is, something that I think was the most obviously a parent. And it used to make him angry, that he would say, you didn't tell me that, or I didn't say that. Now he accepts that it probably happened if you say so. He's actually a lot easier to get along with, you know, in some ways.
Yeah, there was a real frustration. You always think, I've been pretty healthy in my whole life.
And he's very smart.
And so it comes to a point where you just don't admit that you're not, you know, 100% or whatever. And so getting past that, I think, was one of the biggest hurdles, because I really don't feel that way now.
Yes, but he did look into Alzheimer's drug trials. He did that on his own, and he even found a one before he did the Eli Lilly for 3 years. He did another one for about 8 months, and then they found that people were having brain bleeds, so they stopped that one early. And so he found another one. So he's doing what he can to maintain what he can, and I'm very proud of him for his initiative.
So, what tasks or activities do you help with the most often?
So every day is his medications, because he used to, although he used to do that by himself, he would either sometimes double what he was supposed to do or forget, and it might even be a day or two. And then he would, when he found that he wasn't taking his pills, he would get upset with himself. So I have to do that. I do all the laundry because he can't operate machinery very well anymore. He can't, well, he can go to it, and I've got to walk him through to turn the dial this way, push the button here. I might as well do it myself. So yeah,
I can at least load the clothes into the barrel.
Yeah.
Thing. So that,
and he folds towels, and you know, he doesn't remember where things go for putting things away, but he can fold things, and he takes out the recycling. But he's never been good with finances, so I've always we found that out in the first 5 years of marriage, that we were running out of money and we shouldn't have. So we went to credit.
my first wife had run all the money too, so
I didn't know that.
so I was, you know, so I thought I didn't have any practice, so, you know, and that's not disputed, that's just the way it was.
Okay, your starter wife.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Like cooking, fixing his meals. He's only recently had the tremor surgery, so he wasn't able to even cut up his food, but so he's now able to do that more. Meals, drinks, finances, laundry. He's really good at color coordination, so he can choose his own clothes most of the time.
Every once in a while, I'm just it's a target, but I think for most of the times, you know, I'm not going to embarrass her going out with what I would have on.
Yeah, and I drive him everywhere, and I've never complained, although he's been disturbed about not being able to drive. I started volunteering to do the driving when his driving was starting to scare me. So I've told him, I will take you wherever you want to go and pick you up, and you know, that won't be a problem, but we need to worry about it disturbing me, because I've never complained about taking.
Well, and to me, that's another point I need to make to you as well, is that she has gone so far. Let me say it the right way. She does so much. It's amazing, and so one of the few worries that I have right now is that she doesn't burn out through no fault of her own, because it's a lot of stuff, and she is proactive. She's not a wait for something and see if it's worth doing. She's ahead of the game, and
How are you?
yeah. And so that's another thing that I really am conscious of, and I'm hoping that I'm keeping it in, kind of keep, and that's where James L. West comes into play. And my thoughts, it's because she doesn't have to worry about that for a good part of the day, and that can't help but be better.
When he starts getting ready a few hours before he's supposed to show up, and then if I text him and say, would you like an early pickup today? I'm in the area. He'll say, well, no, why don't you make it 5 or 5:30? We've got stuff going on. So I am just delighted because, well, heck, I'm only a mile away. I'll just go home and I'll come back at 5:30 then. So it's fine. I am so glad that he's happy. And he comes home, even though he just wants to go lay down or sit down. It's okay. And then he'll tell me, that it was a very good day. I'll say, what did you do? I don't know, but it was a good day. I'm glad you have a published schedule of events.
Yeah, and just so helpful. And your staff is awesome. It's just,
they meet you at the door singing a song and stuff. They're happy, they're friendly, they're caring.
So have you noticed well, I think you mentioned this, there were some changes in how John communicates or expresses himself. You said some of them are positive.
Yes, yeah, they're positive that he's no longer angry about, if he's walking around the house a lot, I'll finally ask him, what are you looking for? And he'll tell me, and then I can help him. He loves to try to find things on his own, but I used to call him the finder because he was so good at finding things, and he also was the packer, putting things away. Those are skills that are gone right now.
Within the confines of like one dresser, I've got it organized in such an easy way that I know which drawer the underwear's in. I know which drawer
Yes, of your own, but you always have to ask me, where do you want your socks?
Yeah.
It's always the same place, but he can't remember where the trash bags are. So he can take out the trash, but he can't figure out where the trash bags are to put it in a new bag. And I told him he can load the dishwasher, but when he puts things away, I can't find them because they go all kinds of places. So we've had to make some adjustments. I said, do not unload the dishwasher, please. Things go missing for weeks. Measuring spoons, whatever. They're small, easy to put somewhere, and it might take a long time. I have to buy another pair. So measuring spoons.
So have there been any safety issues other than driving, such as wandering? You mentioned forgetting medication or leaving appliances on.
Well, he can't figure out how to turn on. We have an induction stove, and it's the person who owned the house before us had an autistic child. So there's like 4 or 5 steps you have to go through. If you turn off the lock, then you have to put an on button, then you have to push the burner button, then you push a slide. He can't do all that. So there's no safety issue there. That sounded pretty good.
That was opportunity.
Yes. Yeah, but he doesn't wander. And he used to, until this year, used to ride a tricycle to the dog park, which was only a block and a half away, but with the wagon attached to the back for the dog. But I know that this is a degenerative thing, so it might happen, but I'll keep an eye on if there's more in the way of safety concerns. But right now, he loves being taken care of.
Well, then on that note, how do you support his sense of dignity and independence?
Well, just as he's very complimentary to me, I try to recognize his skills and his contributions, whether it be, repetitive chores of bagging up snacks or folding the clothes, putting them away, things like that. And when he's chosen a lovely outfit for the day. So I think I try to support him and encourage him, and let him know that I'm delighted that he's so happy to come here. And then when he does tell me about that he likes encouraging the other people, I think that's a real skill. He's a good team builder, team player. He was always like that, even as a senior officer. All of his people really liked him, and said that he was very encouraging to them. So that's something that we try to reflect towards one another.
So what are your biggest challenges right now as a caregiver?
Right now, the biggest challenge I have is that I haven't been able to. We tried having him go to a dementia care place for a week off, but he's not ready for that, and he wasn't. I wanted to go on a trip in September, so what would be ideal is that if I had a caregiver that could be with him for breakfast and supper, but they could transport him to the day program, because then he would be happy all day long, but then they would take him home and prepare a meal and make sure that he took his pills, because he won't remember to eat and he won't remember his pills and he can't drive. So I need evening care for a few days, and haven't figured that one out yet.
And I'm still to the point that I can find my clothes and the top of chest drawers we have and everything else. I can find my clothes. I do it. I mean, I necessarily get it all matching or whatever, but doing that and then putting the stuff in the dirty clothes, I can do that. So it's not it's not a type of thing. It's
And not lost, and you can shower yourself.
That's right.
This was a problem before he started James West. We would have arguments about taking a shower. Now he wants to be clean and presentable to come to James L. West. I had to put it on the calendar, shower every couple of days. And he would argue that he's already done that. And I'd say, no, because it doesn't say done on your calendar. So that means you didn't. And so you need one. But now I don't have to suggest it anymore. Not suggest it, but insist upon it. Because he's very, now he wants to be pleasant around other people.
It's really weird to know that was stuff that I was missing. I would, like going like, are you kidding me, John? I mean, how could you forget? How could you do this? And that's where.
Now you have good routine.
Well, that's true. And so that's where she has come in and really kind of normalized the experience, but where, it's not a perfect thing, but, I keep my clothes in the closet, in a specific section. I can go in and get clothes. For most times, I think I match things fairly well, but
and one of the good things is he wears a Fitbit. So this going around the house looking for things has increased his step count. So
yeah, it's true.
It's not all bad.
Yeah,
he can outwalk me in a day, just even if he just stayed home.
So how are you taking care of your own emotional and physical health?
Well, something that's helped me a lot is that our youngest son has he's bought my Fitbit, my cell phone, and a membership to Orange Spirit, which is normally people that are 20, 30, 40, you know, they're a few decades younger than me, but except for the week or so that I was really sick, I've been taking high intensity training at Orange Theory, and that's helped me a lot. And I still like to write, so I do writing. I was a speech writer for the Department of Defense, and I keep contact with my friends, mostly who are in San Antonio.
What should other people know in order to provide respectful, person-centered care?
That there are a myriad of agencies and options that are available. Even taking him to the UNT, the geriatric team, after his last visit a week or so ago, they've had the Texas Agency for Aging call me up and offer housekeeping for 40 hours that I would have to use in 2 months. I didn't know they were going to do that. And then there's the VA. Well, that's not for everybody, but you know, that's something that we didn't know until we moved back up here after COVID. Well, the VA said, "Why have you taken so long? Why did you not contact us sooner?" And
So you didn't know it's available.
yeah, you know, they increased his disability, and we didn't know they would mail. They said, "What kind of drugs are you taking?" So I, made a list of everything. Ended up, I didn't know the doctor was going to mail everything to our house. We would not have to even drive to the base, and and then there's this Medicare guide program that has helped pay for respite care and $2,500 a year, which they said translates to about 6 days or 65 hours, something like that. If it's at home care. And then James OS has probably 4 or 5 different training classes every week, which is at no additional charge, whether they're online or in person, and social worker visit counseling, that you can do in person. There's just more support available than I would have ever imagined. When his mom had Alzheimer's,
And it just wasn't available.
yeah, well, they did have someone who would come and exercise with her
That's true.
once a week, and she was on Meals on Wheels. But he had 5 siblings. We tried taking turns. Well, that doesn't work out real well because some of the siblings are not very helpful. Only 2 out of 6. The others forget.
2 out of 5.
Well, 6 includes you.
Well, yeah, I'm not right off the bat.
Yeah. But you don't have to rely on
That's true.
your children or your siblings. Maybe you used to, but now there's, I guess because of the boomer generation, there's a lot more focus on public support. I hope that keeps up, because I know various programs are getting cut back, but for now, it's pretty good.
I'm 64.
All right, Heather.
There was one more story I wanted to tell everybody, and I read your comments about them in the chat. And so thank you all for listening to them and learning from them, and for your kind words about them. I did want to also share the story when some people said, he's aware of his dementia, and yes, he is. but also a reminder for the caregiver is that there was a time that his wife, Angela, showed up at the day program, and she says to me, why are you closing? Why are you closing at 4 o'clock? What's going on? You know, John called me and told me I had to get up here and pick him up because we were closing at 4. And I looked at her and I said, no, we're not closing at 4 today. We're closing at our regular time. And I kind of reminded her, you know, when we do close early, if we ever do, you know, we'll call, we'll email, we'll do all this stuff. And she stood there and she was so frustrated. She's like, I missed out on my fitness class. And so what I thought was interesting is that idea is, you know, she knows he has dementia. He knows he has dementia. But then there's those moments like when you heard him talk, he sounds quote unquote normal and like he understands what's going on. So when he calls his wife and says, pick me up, they're closing, we must be closing. So I just felt like there was a lot that we could learn from that also.
He does such it, and again, those of you who work in memory care or work with seniors, is that unusual to have someone like he is, or where they've kind of gone together right into this journey? It is, but he's able to then articulate, to be able to tell us. And I hope you caught some of those things. You heard her even say the word. He used the word. I wrote it down. She's normalized it for me. He even said that, trying to keep it as normal as possible. She got in support groups and she got in education and she started learning, how is this journey that I'm on this journey with him. How are we going to do this together? We are going to open up for questions. I know Heather said she had been looking at the chat. I hadn't been able to look at it yet, but we have this on here because one of the ways that we treat dementia, we're doing it right now. We do it with knowledge. We do it by building our skills, focusing on their current abilities. I always tell the family caregivers, we cannot get bogged down in what they can no longer do. We cannot get in those woulda, coulda, shouldas, what maybe we should have done. You know better, you do better. You do classes like this, you learn, you do more education, you come to support groups, you find out you're not alone, and we focus on today. We stay grounded in today. If we get caught up in the what ifs, that's knocking on the door of anxiety, because that's called anticipatory grief, where we're thinking about the future and what is to come. We've got to stay focused in right now. So this is my information. There's Heather's information. We are always available for you. You can call either of us and we can talk through things with you. Let me stop sharing, and Marty's hopping back on here.
Actually, can I get you to share? Do you want to? Are you wanting to do the
Oh, I did forget
CEUs?
that. Sorry, I
CEUs
forgot to
and
do that
stuff?
part.
That's all right.
I just kept on and going. There it is. Yep, there's our information for the CEs again.
Yeah,
Somebody
the CEUs. Go ahead, Jamie. Do you want to go over the CEUs for us, and then we'll go. Well,
Yes.
they can review the Q&A. Yeah, go
Yes,
ahead.
happy to. If you will, the SurveyMonkey evaluation will be sent out. We have time. I will try and put it in chat, Marty. I don't know if you have it
I can get
readily
it.
available. We can put it in chat so you can fill it out now. Either way, we ask everybody to complete the evaluation of the program. We really do appreciate your honest feedback, and we use your feedback. But if you are wanting 1.5 CE credits for social work, nursing, licensed counselors, or a certificate of attendance, it is required that you complete the SurveyMonkey evaluation. If you will please give us about 4 weeks to process all of the certificate requests, we'll email those out to you in the email that you provide. Thank you.
We would also appreciate it if you would complete the Google evaluation survey. It should show up as you close out of Zoom today. It will give you an opportunity to take a short survey, and it is a real short survey if you would. But if you would, we ask you to complete that because that helps us report back to our funders on our goals and objectives that we set forth when we applied for the money to do these. So if you would kindly complete both of them, I will put the SurveyMonkey in the chat here in just a second, and the Google survey, Zoom should ask if you'd like to take a short survey at the end, and both of the survey links will be in the follow-up email that goes out tomorrow. go or go. It's back to you, Holly.
Okay, all right. So next program, August 12th, on Tuesday, we're going to do trauma-informed memory care. I do want to make sure, I saw some questions in the chat. I wasn't sure if Heather, Jamie, if y'all had been able to answer some of those. Somebody is asking about suggestions on how to help a caregiver, how to respond with a person with dementia exhibiting aggressive behavior or anger. Most of the time when somebody is being aggressive, there is an unmet need. Now, about 80% of the time when there is a challenging expression, is what we're going to call it, a challenging expression, it's our approach or it's the environment. Now, if this anger is sudden, if this anger has come out of nowhere, they've never done this before, they hit, kick, bite, punch, spit, something like that, and it's never happened before, first thing we want to assess for is pain. We always want to assess for pain first. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a urinary tract infection. Now, can you ask them if they have a UTI? You cannot. Can you ask them if it hurts when they pee? Probably not. Can you ask them if it's they're probably going to say no. But are they saying no while they're furrowing their brow and holding themselves? No. They're saying yes. So we want to assess for pain first. We're looking for that unmet need. Keep in mind that sometimes that aggression or that challenging expression can be frustration. It can just be, you heard him even talk about early in the disease, the frustration that he had because he couldn't get a need met. He couldn't make his needs known. She couldn't read his mind. So validate the feeling. It's back to those 3 steps we talked about earlier. Validate the feeling. This really is frustrating. It's frustrating for me too. Fix it. And sometimes we've got to fix it with that therapeutic story and distract. Food, music, animals, children. So validate, fix, distract. I saw, what else did I see up here earlier? Somebody was talking about that they wouldn't do a cognitive assessment on a 95-year-old. That is not uncommon. When somebody is 95, they are already well over life expectancy. Keep in mind that life expectancy in the United States right now, average is about 77. So someone who's 95 is more than a decade over life expectancy. If they are showing some signs of dementia, it probably is going to be very difficult to get someone to put them through testing. And then I would ask you, why are you putting them through testing? Do you need to put them through testing? And most people, when somebody's that age, would say, no, we're just going to go with the dementia. We don't have to know what kind it is. We don't have to get that Alzheimer's vascular Lewy body. We're just going to go with its dementia. Now, is it a normal part of aging? No. Are they going to treat it the same as they would if they were 75? Probably. They're going to do the exact same thing. Now, if they were 45, if they were 55, if they were 62, am I going to go through with all that testing? Yes. But at 95, am I going to put them through 5 to 6 hours of a neuropsych test? I'm not doing it. Am I going to put them through going through a lumbar puncture or an MRI or a CAT scan or a PET scan? Probably not. We're going to do the assessment in the office. We're going to call it dementia. We're going to do the Aricept, the Namenda, the Exelon, some of those meds, and we're going to focus on quality of life. That's for everybody. We're going to focus on quality of life. There's no treatment for this. No matter how old they are, there's no treatment for this. Jamie, Heather, do you see anything that I missed? I've only been back so far.
Well, Donna has wrote in, well, let me say this. You will get a copy of the slides, and Marty addressed, this will be up on the North Texas Area Agency on Aging YouTube channel. We are not able to send out the video. We just cannot send out the video, it won't send, but it will be on the, because Marty's recording this, so you will be able to watch the recording with the video of the sweet couple and watch them when that's uploaded in the next several weeks. So
And actually, that should be up pretty quick. We are,
Okay.
I am almost completely caught up with videos. So there's only one other one I have to do before this. So we'll get up pretty quick.
Awesome.
Oh, I see something else about food and nutrition and dementia. Food and nutrition and dementia. Okay, so food and nutrition, that's something that we can really do right now for us. Before we get there, we can do what's called the Mind Diet. Look up the Mind Diet. We've got programs about it. We can change our diet. Once a person is diagnosed, we can encourage them to do healthy eating. Now, I want everybody to put yourself, though, in their shoes. Let's say you're 75, 80, 85 years old. You've been diagnosed with a terminal progressive diagnosis, and you want another cookie. Are you going to tell them they can't have one? I'm not. And I'm 55 without a terminal diagnosis, and nobody better tell me I can't have another cookie either, because you might see a challenging expression because I'm an adult and I can choose to have another cookie if I want to. They are going to crave sweets, the part of the brain that is in control of the senses. All of the senses change, and they're losing taste except for sweet. So they're going to want sweets. We say, let them have their sweets. Encourage them to eat healthy. Of course, encourage them to eat healthy. But is there going to come a time that they want ice cream and cookies? Yes, there is. Now, keep in mind also, this is a hard sentence to hear. The brain is failing. The brain controls everything in the body, including the ability to that intake of that food and making sure that we're metabolizing the food. So there's going to be a time that they might eat, but they're still losing weight because their body's not metabolizing the food anymore. Here's that hard sentence. A person with dementia doesn't die because they stop eating. They stop eating because they're dying. Food is fuel, and eventually they don't need the fuel anymore. We don't put somebody with dementia into the hospital and put a feeding tube in, because as that digestive system starts to shut down, and it's usually the first one that shuts down, that we're pumping in has to have somewhere to go, and it can be a disaster. It's just one of those really hard parts of working through dementia, getting educated about dementia. Enjoy the time that you've got. And if that means we're having cookies and cake, then we're having cookies and cake. We're going to encourage those healthy foods, but I'm sure not getting in a fight with them over it.
There's a question in here about kind of a more complex question, but a woman needs help with her brother, APS. The doctor won't talk to her because he retracted the MPA. APS is not very necessarily helpful. There's other mental health issues. I know to continue to try with APS, but I would also call or even try the 988 number. That's the mental health hotline. And they can maybe point you in other directions, or at least area organizations in your area. 988 is the equivalent of 911, but it is for mental health issues.
Maybe contacting an ombudsman as well.
He's in the home.
Oh, okay.
He's in his home.
Yeah, then I think that would probably be the best then.
Yeah. And I think it's just a lot of calling and continuing to contact until somebody hears you. Unfortunately, he has the right to live in a boarding house. He has those rights, and you can't force them to do those things, but continuing to call. And I would try the 988, at least for other resources or other avenues.
Yeah, and then somebody also, when we're right at time, has asked if there's sitters to watch the patient while the spouse leaves the house. Yes, there is. We just happen to have one of those here at James L. West, brand new, just opened July 1. We offer at-home services now. There are others out there. You can contact us. You can contact us for others. But absolutely, there are people who are trained specifically in dementia care who can come and it's a companion service. They can be a companion. So we are so happy everybody was on today. Marty, do you have anything else to add?
I don't. We've had lots of people on. I do want to make sure people understand, and I realize that people have to, get pulled from the watching the webinar from time to time. But the Survey Monkey, the survey evaluation, the Google evaluation, and the link to the slides will all be in the follow-up email, and those are all in the chat. If you go up through the chat, you'll find the Survey Monkey link and the link to the slides.
Excellent.
And so thank you all. Once again, very, very, very impressive. I do want to add that we have another webinar tomorrow that is just going to be a couple that just similar to what you just saw that talk about their experience and how they are. So you get a big dose of this over a 24-hour period. But tomorrow morning we've got that webinar. So please look in when you go online, look at the other things that we have going on, and the follow-up email will have a link to register for that if you're interested. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you all have a wonderful day.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.